Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hallway was empty when I stepped inside. Quiet, too quiet for a Monday morning. I had come early on purpose, hoping to slip in unnoticed. But the moment I pushed the door open, he was already there, leaning against the desk, waiting. His eyes lifted the second I entered, and something in his expression softened, then tightened, like he'd been caught thinking something he shouldn't. "You came at the worst and best time," he said, voice low, almost amused. I froze for a heartbeat, literally. I felt it slam once against my ribs, hard enough that I was sure he heard it. The morning sunlight cut across his face, outlining the faint smile pulling at one corner of his mouth. It wasn't the smile a teacher should give. It was something warmer, something dangerous. He walked closer, slow, deliberate. My breath caught when his hand brushed mine. Barely a touch, just the faintest slide of skin, but it sent a spark all the way up my arm. I should have stepped back. I didn't. "Rough morning?" he asked. His voice was light, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. Longer than normal, longer than safe. I could feel the heat of his body from just inches away, the warm scent of chalk, coffee, and something subtle that made my stomach flutter. "I didn't expect anyone to be here yet," I whispered. "Neither did I," he said. "But I'm not complaining." There was a teasing edge to his tone, the kind that danced right along the line without crossing it. My fingers trembled, and he noticed. His gaze dropped to my hands, then lifted again with a softness that felt too intimate for a classroom. "That nervous?" he asked quietly. "I'm not nervous." "Then why are you holding your breath?" I hadn't realized I was. The silence between us thickened. Charged, warm, impossible to ignore. Every second felt like it was pulling something hidden to the surface, something neither of us were supposed to acknowledge. He took one small step closer, close enough that I felt his breath brush my cheek. "I need to tell you something," he murmured. His voice, the look in his eyes, whatever he was about to say, whatever line he was about to blur, I knew it would change everything. But before the words left his mouth, someone else opened the door, and he stepped back too fast, too guilty. I stood there, heart racing, wondering what he almost said, and why it felt like he'd been waiting to say it for a long time. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The door clicked shut behind the person who had interrupted, and the room's energy shifted instantly. He stepped back toward his desk, shoulders tense, pretending to sort through papers he'd already arranged a dozen times. I stayed by the doorway, steadying my breath, trying to pretend that moment between us hadn't happened. Trying harder to pretend I didn't want to feel it again. But wanting and admitting were two very different things. He had always been the calm one. Composed, patient, the kind of man who rarely slipped. But lately, I'd seen the cracks. The long pauses when I spoke. The way he kept glancing at the door before letting himself look at me. The soft exhale every time I got too close. Something unspoken lived between us. Something neither of us dared name. I walked toward the desk slowly, pretending to look at the stack of books beside him. "You never did finish what you were going to say," I murmured. He looked up sharply, then away, jaw tightening. It wasn't important, but it was. The lie sat between us like an invisible line, glowing. "You don't usually hide things," I said softly. He let out a breath, resting both hands on the edge of the desk. Maybe I'm learning I'm not as good at hiding as I thought. There it was again, that flicker. A truth slipping out before he could catch it. I caught the edge of a notebook, running a fingertip across the worn cover. You've been different lately. Different. His voice was steady, but he still didn't look at me. Quieter. Distracted. Watching me like you're trying to solve something. Maybe I am, he said, almost under his breath. A soft hum filled the silence between us. Electricity, tension, something humming beneath my ribs. Every little detail felt sharper. The way his fingers curled slightly when he was nervous, the faint crease between his brows, the warmth of his presence pulling me in like gravity. You know, I said gently, you can talk to me. He finally lifted his gaze. And in that moment, I saw everything he was trying and failing to hide. Loneliness, want, fear, and something deeper, something that matched the feeling twisting low in my stomach. I shouldn't, he whispered. You know I shouldn't. I know, I said, but you still almost did. He pressed his lips together, fighting whatever words were threatening to escape. Then, to my surprise, he stepped away from the desk, as if putting distance would help him think. Didn't. He stopped just a foot from me, caught in the same tension I was. His hand lifted halfway, hesitated, then dropped. I don't want to make things harder for you, he said quietly. Maybe you already have, I said. And maybe I don't mind. Something in his expression shifted. Surprised, relieved, terrified all at once. Before either of us could say another word, footsteps echoed down the hall again. He moved back instantly, posture straightening, mask returning. But the truth was out now, and there was no way either of us could pretend anymore. Disclaimer. This story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The tension between us didn't fade after that morning. If anything, it tightened, coiling around every interaction like a thread ready to snap. By midweek, I'd convinced myself to keep my distance, to stop reading into his looks, to stop wanting more from someone I shouldn't want at all. But then she walked into the classroom. A younger teacher, pretty, confident, smiling far too comfortably at him. I watched from the corner as she leaned close to whisper something. He laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. Something in my chest pulled tight. Sharp, hot, irrational. I tried to focus on my work, but my eyes kept drifting toward them. The way she touched his arm. The way he didn't move away. The way he looked at her. Comfortable, open, too familiar. The jealousy hit me before I could stop it. He noticed. His eyes flicked toward me, just for a second. But that second was enough for me to look down quickly, pretending none of it mattered. Pretending I wasn't suddenly burning from the inside. A few minutes later, the younger teacher left the room. He waited until the door clicked shut before walking toward me. Fast, almost too fast. As if he couldn't stop himself. You okay? He asked quietly. I'm fine. You're not, he said, studying my face. You got quiet the moment she walked in. I didn't answer. I didn't want to. The truth was too close, too dangerous. You don't have to be jealous, he murmured. My breath caught. Why would I be jealous? His eyes softened, darkened, revealing something he'd been trying desperately to conceal. Because she isn't the one I look for when I walk into a room. The air thickened instantly. I stepped back only a little, but he followed, closing the distance again. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the warmth radiating off him. You shouldn't say things like that, I whispered. You think I don't know that? he said, voice barely controlled. But every time you look at me like that, it gets harder to pretend. There it was, the breaking point creeping in. I don't look at you like anything, I lied. He gave a quiet, breathless laugh. You really think I haven't noticed? The way you tense when someone else stands too close to me. The way you avoid my eyes when I get too close to you. My heart hammered. Loud. Reckless. Tell me I'm imagining it, he whispered. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because he wasn't imagining anything. And the worst part was, he knew it. Footsteps echoed again from the hall, loud. Approaching. He exhaled sharply, stepping back just as the door handle began to turn. Again. Interrupted. But this time, we both knew exactly what was happening between us. Disclaimer. This story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The classroom was empty again, this time for real. The hallway outside echoed with silence, the kind that felt heavier than words. He had asked me to stay after school, to talk about something important. I had nodded, my stomach twisting into nervous knots, knowing exactly what that meant. He stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the late afternoon sunlight spill across the floor. The shadows stretched long and golden, highlighting every line of his face, every subtle tension in his posture. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud in my ears, as if the walls themselves had amplified it. You're here, he said simply. No pretense, no casual tone. Just acknowledgement. I am, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, though it shook slightly. He turned toward me slowly, and in that movement, the air shifted. Closer now. Too close to ignore. My fingers twitched as if to reach out, but I didn't. You know we shouldn't, he said, voice low, almost a growl of restraint. I know, I whispered, taking a small step forward anyway. He exhaled sharply, a mix of frustration and something raw, something electric. The space between us was barely a breath. Every inch felt amplified. The warmth radiating off his body, the subtle scent of coffee and something uniquely him, the quiet electricity that crackled each time our eyes met. I can't stop thinking about you, he admitted, and the words landed like fire. I can't either, I said, voice trembling, and I could feel the pull between us tightening like a coil ready to snap. He hesitated, then moved closer, just enough that our shoulders brushed. The contact was brief, innocent to an outsider, but everything inside me shifted. A jolt of heat, a whisper of danger, a promise of something we both wanted but couldn't claim. I shouldn't, he started again, but his words trailed off. The sound of footsteps outside the door froze us both. We both stiffened. He stepped back instantly, his mask of composure returning, but only barely. The door handle rattled. Someone was coming, and in that instant, the tension snapped into impossibility. Whatever we had been holding back, whatever words or confessions were about to escape, would be interrupted, and we both knew it. Disclaimer. This story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The classroom was finally empty, and the late sunlight cast long streaks across the floor, painting the space in gold and shadow. We were alone now, or so I thought. My chest was tight, my fingers tingling from the closeness, from the words hovering on the edge of being said. He turned to me slowly, expression serious, almost unreadable. I need to tell you something, he said, voice low and steady, though there was an edge of tension I hadn't heard before. I, I've been waiting, I admitted, my own voice trembling, for you to say it. He hesitated, then exhaled sharply. It's not just about us, he murmured. There's someone else. Someone I didn't expect to get involved with me like this. My stomach dropped. Betrayal? Or a test? I searched his eyes, looking for a hint, a crack, any sign that this was a lie. I didn't want it to happen, he continued, stepping closer. But she confessed her feelings, and I thought I could ignore it. I thought I could stay distant. But it's complicated. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. My body wanted to step away, but my mind, it couldn't. I needed the truth, whatever it was. And you, I whispered, where do I fit in? His gaze softened, and for the first time it broke through the tension. You're the one I can't ignore, he said, voice low but certain. Everything else, it fades when I see you. When I'm with you, that's why I had to be honest. Because I couldn't risk losing what I feel for you. The confession hit me like a wave. Relief, fear, longing, all rolled into one. I could see the truth in his eyes. This wasn't about infidelity in the usual sense. It was about choices, desires, and the risk of finally admitting them. Before I could respond, the sound of a door opening echoed down the hallway. My heart raced. Not now, I thought. Not when everything was on the line. He glanced toward the sound, panic flashing briefly. I have to deal with this, he said, voice tight, eyes locking onto mine one last time. I stepped forward instinctively, reaching out just to catch his hand, but he stepped back, the distance suddenly unbearable. Don't go, I whispered. I can't stay, he said, his jaw tight. Not yet, but I'll come back. And then he was gone. The classroom felt empty, cold, and alive all at once, the sunlight now harsh and unforgiving. But in the quiet aftermath, one thing was certain. Nothing between us would ever be the same. The twist was clear. Honesty, desire, and timing had collided, leaving both of us suspended on the edge of something unavoidable. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hallways were quiet, but the air felt heavy with everything unsaid. I had stayed behind after school, waiting for him to appear again, hoping and fearing what might happen next. Every footstep outside made my heart jump. Every shadow across the doorway felt like a test of patience. He appeared finally, eyes dark and tired, but fixed on me with an intensity that left me breathless. We need to talk, he said, voice low, tight with urgency. I know, I whispered. I've been thinking about us, about everything. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, but the tension didn't mask the longing in his gaze. I shouldn't have let things get this far, he said, stepping closer. I tried to resist, to be professional, but I can't anymore. I can't hide it. Not from you, not from myself. A lump rose in my throat. Then don't hide it, I said. Not anymore. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Only the faint hum of the classroom filled the silence. The weight of choice pressed down, daring us to cross the line we'd both been circling. You know what this means, he said finally, eyes searching mine. It's risky for both of us. People might judge, misunderstand. Everything could change. I don't care, I said firmly. I care about us, about this, whatever this is, and I'm done pretending it's not real. He blinked, relief and disbelief warring across his face. Slowly, carefully, he closed the distance between us. Not too close, not too fast, but enough that I could feel his warmth, his presence, the pull that had been magnetic all along. "I don't want to lose you," he admitted, voice soft but raw. "Even if it means everything else falls apart." "You won't?" I whispered, feeling a rush of certainty. "We'll figure it out. Together." The tension that had built for weeks seemed to shatter, leaving only clarity. The air between us felt electric, alive, charged with the promise of what could come next. Every fear, every doubt, every longing, laid bare and confronted. Then he paused, one hand hovering near mine, just shy of touching. "So, we try? No turning back." "Yes," I said, heart pounding. "We try, and we'll face whatever comes." He smiled. A slow, relieved, completely unguarded smile. And finally, the first real sense of peace passed over both of us. The storm hadn't ended, but we had chosen each other. The door creaked faintly, a reminder that the world outside still existed. But in that moment, it didn't matter. We had made our choice. The next step, whatever it was, would come when the time was right. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel fear. I felt something stronger, something real. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The evening sunlight spilled softly through the classroom windows, casting everything in a golden glow that made the room feel intimate and calm. After the days of tension, secrets, and near confessions, it felt as though the world had paused just for us. He was there, waiting by the desk, his usual composed demeanor softened into something warmer, more open. I walked toward him slowly, heart still racing, but with a certainty I hadn't felt in weeks. "You came," he said, his voice low, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "I did," I replied, feeling a rush of relief and anticipation. I didn't want to wait any longer. The silence between us was no longer heavy. It was comforting. Every glance, every subtle movement, spoke louder than words ever could. He stepped closer, closing the space that had been filled with weeks of unspoken longing. "I've thought about this, about us, constantly," he admitted. "And I've realized something." "What?" I whispered, my chest tight with emotion. "That I don't want to imagine my days without you," he said, voice steady, eyes locked onto mine. "Every hesitation, every fear, it doesn't matter anymore. You matter more than anything else." I felt my lips curve into a soft smile, tears threatening to spill. "You've no idea how long I've waited to hear that," I confessed, stepping closer until the warmth of his presence enveloped me. He reached out, his hand brushing mine gently, fingers intertwining with mine in a natural, effortless connection. The tension that had haunted us for weeks melted into a gentle, radiant warmth. "I promise," he whispered, "to be honest, to face whatever comes together." "And I promise the same," I said, feeling a sense of completeness I hadn't known I was missing. For a long moment, we just stood there, hands linked, eyes meeting, hearts aligned. The classroom, once a place of tension and hesitation, now felt like a sanctuary. Every worry, every complication, every stolen glance that had defined our journey seemed to fall away, leaving only trust, understanding, and undeniable affection. Finally, he leaned in slightly, a subtle, tender gesture. A near touch of foreheads a breath apart, just enough to feel the closeness without rushing. It was intimate, real, and everything I had been waiting for. The sun dipped lower, painting the room in amber and gold. Outside, the world continued its rhythm, but inside, time felt suspended. For once, we didn't need to hide or hold back. And in that golden silence, the story of us, the longing, the tension, the confessions, found its resolution. A beginning, not an ending, filled with warmth, hope, and the promise of more.